What's up, everybody? My name is Parasite. Welcome back to Rebuilding Nebraska. We have finally played our final game of year one, and so now we start the off season. I think how I'm going to do this, I wasn't really sure how I was going to set up the off season videos. I think I'm going to split it up into two different videos. The one today is just going to be kind of recapping the season, going through the bowl winners, going through the award winners, through our player stats on the season, saying goodbye to our seniors, and going through where we're currently at with recruiting and who we're going to be joining the team for next season to replace our outgoing seniors. And then next episode, we're going to go through the actual entire off-season process where we do our final recruiting, coaching changes, players leaving, position changes, everything like that. Setting up our schedule for next season, the final preparation for year two of Rebuilding Nebraska. First off, we're going to go through our schedule because this has been an interesting season. We started well and we ended well, but the middle was just absolutely awful. So we started the season against Wyoming and had that really one of the better games of the season, that overtime victory over Wyoming, 25-22. Followed up with one of the worst teams that's not an FCS team that we played all year, Southern Miss. Another game that didn't start very well, but we did end up getting a comfortable victory, winning 24-10. And then a game that just doesn't make any sense. They were number 2 at the time, way better than us, but somehow we were able to beat Oklahoma 20-18 through a just magical defensive performance. Oklahoma were able to drive down the field on us, but we stopped them in the red zone at almost every single time. And when you force teams to only, score 3 on a drive, you have a chance of getting these upsets, and that's exactly what happened. But that was kind of the high point of the season. After that, it kind of fell apart a little bit. We did win against FCS Midwest after that, but even that game didn't look very good. We started off very poorly. I think we were losing at the beginning of the game to FCS Midwest. Then we were able to pull it back and started playing well and got the victory. But after that, it kind of fell apart. We started Big Ten play and we lost to Illinois to start our Big Ten season. They ended up being 4-8. We ended up being 7-6. So it's definitely a game we shouldn't have lost, but we lose 24-17. Then an overtime loss to Purdue. We scored 6 points. The worst probably offensive performance of the entire season. It was against a bad Purdue team. I think they had 1 win at that point. They end up with only 3. And we lose 13-6 in overtime. Then we had a bye week and probably the worst loss of the season because Minnesota were the worst team we've played in the Big Ten. They had 0 wins at that time. And we still only put up 13 points and lost 16-13. Just an awful 3-game stretch. In Big Ten, these were the 3 easiest games, following up with Northwestern being the 4th. And we lost the first 3, and I was not optimistic after that. We were able to get a fortunate win over Northwestern, but even it wasn't convincing. Our offense stepped up, scored 31 points. I believe that was the first start of, let's see. Can we see team's player stats? Yes, that was Logan Smothers. I believe it was his first start, and he got the win over Northwestern. And then it fell apart again because, to be fair, our schedule got very tough. Up next, we took on Michigan, and the fact we kept it close, 24-21, I think that's actually respectable, considering the last 4 games we had where we struggled against a not very good Northwestern team and then lost against 3 pretty bad teams. To keep it close against Michigan was signs of improvement, and then we got smashed by Michigan State. I mean, they're good. They're very good. They end up number 12 in the nation, 11-2, but 32-10. Just an absolutely awful showing on both sides of the ball. And we followed up with another loss to Penn State. Again, another good team. They finished 10-4, number 25 in the nation. 34-24, though. We never really looked into that game. And then somehow we beat Iowa. The defense, probably their best performance of the entire season. They were good against Oklahoma, but they still allowed 18 points. They held a good Iowa team to 6 points. Our offense still didn't really show up. They only scored 14, one of the lower production games of the entire season, because Iowa do have a very good defense, the best secondary we faced all season long. But Adrian Martinez actually started and had one of his best passing games against that really good passing defense. So that was kind of weird, but still only put up 14 points. But the defense showed out, and so that got us the win, which gave us the opportunity to play in a bowl game. If we'd have lost this game, there is a 0% chance we would have made a bowl game. But we won it, got ourselves to 6-6, and after that, I didn't think we'd get a bowl game. But we did. And we got Kentucky and the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, and a big win, 31-21. Defense to start the game was pretty awful, but the second half was absolutely dominant. One of the most dominant halves for our defense all season long. And they were pretty good against Iowa, but they completely shut out Kentucky in the second half. And the offense, again, they started pretty slow. They scored on their second drive, but not a single passing yard on that entire drive. But especially in the second half, the defense stepped up and the offense had a little bit of balance to it for the first time all season long. It just sucks that it was in the last game of the season, but I mean, it was a bowl game, so I'm glad it did happen, and I'm glad it helped us get our first trophy. And that was our bowl game, but what about some of the other big bowl games? Well, in the Peach Bowl, Alabama played Clemson, rematch of the national championship. Alabama, number 15, after they lost to Clemson 31-24. I don't know how this Alabama team is that bad, because they're stacked, but they didn't have a very good season. The Outback Bowl, Michigan State beat Florida 31-20. The Rose Bowl, Oregon beat Penn State 34-14. Gator Bowl, Pittsburgh beat Arkansas. Fiesta Bowl, Ohio State barely beats USF. Only a 3-point victory against a team that had 8 wins at the time, 8-4. That's kind of disappointing for your Ohio State, but they still got the win. Utah ends up number 2 in the nation as they beat UAB, who are number 6, in the Sugar Bowl, 37-34. In fact, UAB and Utah are 2 of the best teams in the nation. Is kind of surprising. In the Cotton Bowl, Texas beats Michigan 13-7. Michigan not with their best season, even though they did beat us. And the Orange Bowl, Miami beats Coastal Carolina, number 9 ranked Coastal Carolina, 11-2. But a very good season for Miami. They end up number 3 in the nation and win the Orange Bowl. The Birmingham Bowl, Tennessee beats Cincinnati. Not a huge bowl, but 2 decent teams in there. Cincinnati, I think, underrated in real life, maybe not in the game. And then finally, the national championship. Georgia, they won in real life, and they won it in this game. 20-13 over Baylor, which is surprising that Baylor got to the national championship. But Georgia finished an unbeaten season by winning the Natty. Now we'll go through some award winners and All-Americans before we get to our player stats for this season. Starting off with the award winners. The Maxwell was won by Kenny Pickett. He had, 3,500 yards, 42 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. That's a pretty good season from Kenny Pickett. I doubt we have a quarterback in the top 12, 30, 40, 50. Be very surprised. And yeah, it only goes to like 12. And obviously we don't have anybody. Walter Camp was won by James Cook, the running back for Georgia, who won the national championship. The Bednarik, Cam Taylor-Britt is on there. Number 6. He did have a very good season. But the winner is Silas Kelly from Coastal Carolina, the left outside linebacker. The Nagurski was won by Isaiah Thomas of Oklahoma. But we had 2 players on there. Ty Robinson, who I didn't even realize, he has 14 sacks on the season. Feels like that came out of nowhere. I knew he led our team in sacks, and he got a fair amount. I didn't realize he got that many. And Ben Still also on there at number 9. He actually had 11, which also surprised me, because I don't really remember him getting many sacks. But his run defense is the main thing that really highlighted his season. He was a very good run defender for us. The O'Brien, the best quarterback in the nation, I believe. Yeah, won by Kenny Pickett. Walker, best running back, James Cook. Blitnikoff, best receiver, Justin Ross. Mechie, second. The Mackey, best tight end, Paulo, senior. I doubt. Yeah, we don't have anybody in the top 12. I mean, all these guys have like 1,000 to 700 to 800 yards. Our passing game barely hit that in total. Outland, best offensive lineman, goes to Jamari Sawyer. Nobody in the top 10 for us. Remington, best center, goes to Grant Gibson. Nobody in the top 12 for us. Lombardi, Ty Robinson finishes second behind Isaiah Thomas, who wins the Lombardi best defensive lineman. Ty Robinson second, and he's one of our few returning players on this defense. So he's probably going to be a big part of our defense next year. Ben Still finishes 7th, and he's going to be leaving. He is a redshirt senior. The Butkus, best linebacker, goes to Chamari Connor. The Thorpe, the best corner, Cam Taylor-Britt, finishes 3rd. He had quite a few interceptions. Doesn't show here, but how many interceptions did he have? 6. 6 interceptions. I mean, he showed that he is for sure our best cornerback, but unfortunately, he's also going to be graduating. And I think there's a decent chance he might get drafted. In real life, he actually was drafted by the Bengals, I believe. But the winner of the Thorpe was Taiwan Mullen. Groza, best kicker. Gabe Burkich wins it. He was perfect, 23 of 23. Culp was also perfect, but he only gets 3rd. And Parker Lewis, who finished 2nd, missed 5 kicks. So how, I mean, I guess he attempted a lot more. 30 attempts compared to 18 for Connor Culp. 18 of 18 for Culp, though, is pretty good. Long of 53. Parker Lewis, 25 of 30. And Gert Burkich, can understand. 23 of 23 is pretty dang good. And finally, the Ray Guy. I think there's two more. Ray Guy, which is the best punter, goes to Michael Turk. And the Jet, which is the best returner, goes to KD Nixon. Do we have anyone in the top 12? No. Feels a little bit disappointing. Now the All-Americans. I would expect to see Ty Robinson probably still and possibly Cam Taylor-Britt on one of these, even if it's just the All-Big Ten. I don't know if they get in the All-NCAA. First team, I would be shocked if we had anyone in the first team. We do not. Second team, possibly, could possibly have like Ty Robinson on here. He is. Ty Robinson is a second team All-NCAA. And Cam Taylor-Britt and Deontay Williams. That one's surprising. He's really good. But I'm still kind of surprised he's in the second team All-NCAA. If he's on the All-Big Ten team, I wouldn't be that surprised. But All-NCAA is a little bit surprising. Now let's look at the Big Ten. First team, we're not gonna have a single offensive player on any of these lists. It's not gonna surprise you. Actually, I think I missed out on the All-Freshman team, which I don't think we'll have anyone because we didn't really start any freshmen this year. That's gonna change next year. Yeah, no All-Freshmen. All right, let's go back to the not Big 12, Big 10. All right, yeah, no one on offense. No surprise. Ty Robinson and Ben Still. First team, all Big Ten defense. Came to the Britt, probably will also be on here. He is. And as is Deontay Williams, not a surprise, sending his second team NCAA. And Connor Culp is the best Big Ten kicker. Yeah, he was number 3 in the nation. Second team, still no one on offense. If we had anyone, it'd be an offensive lineman, and that's still probably not going to happen. Do we have any second team? I'd be kind of surprised because those are like all of our best players. Yeah, no one on the second team. And I think that's it. I don't think there's a freshman team. There's not. Now the biggest one, the Heisman. It was actually won by the true freshman running back from Ohio State, Travion Henderson. He's a 95 overall as a true freshman. That is insane. He had 1,600 yards, 6 average, 17 rushing touchdowns. He had about 250 yards through the air and 4 additional touchdowns. Second was Cook, who was actually voted best running back. So I'm surprised Henderson got the Heisman over him. I don't know why that is. White, number 3. Bohannon, the only quarterback, number 4. And Rashad White, number 5 from Arizona State. One more thing I meant to look at earlier was the conference standings. And this is why I was surprised that we got a bowl game. Because technically we were 6th, absolute bottom of the Big Ten West. We had a better record than 3 of the teams above us, but we lost to 2 of them. And Northwestern, I guess, have a better conference record. Yeah, they have a better conference record, which I think is why they're over us. But we lost to Minnesota. We lost to Illinois. We did beat Northwestern, but they were 3-5 in the conference. We were 2-6, tied for the worst in the Big Ten West. Points for, actually not the least. We had more than Northwestern, Minnesota, and Illinois. That is very surprising. And we actually had the best defense in the Big Ten West. 261. How's it compared to the East? Ohio State's is better, even though they finished 4th at 10-3. But we're the second best defense in the Big Ten. Offense, though, not anywhere close to the likes of Ohio State, Michigan, even Penn State, who win the Big Ten East. Now we'll look through the final season stats for our players and through the NCAA as a whole. We're going to have a lot of seniors on these lists. So starting off, Adrian Martinez, the senior quarterback. He ended up leading us in passing, 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. Didn't throw a lot of interceptions, but that's because the majority of his passes weren't catchable by anyone. But only 1,300 yards. Smothers, 18 of 128, 82 of 128 for 825, 6 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Still, Adrian Martinez, only 108 yards per game. That is not ideal. Only 91 for Smothers either. Our passing game is just non-existent this year. And 33 sacks for Adrian Martinez and 24 for Logan Smothers. Neither of them were any good. Our rushing game was our calling card on offense, but even that really struggled. I mean, out of the first 2 drives especially. We could start games pretty well running the ball, but again, like I've said it all season long, they would start just blitzing everybody, expecting a run, because they knew we couldn't pass it, and we proved that we couldn't pass it, so they just kept doing it. And so it made establishing an offense in general and running the ball specifically to be very difficult later in games. But Ramir Johnson with that bowl game goes over 1,000 yards, 1,094, just over a 5 average and 7 touchdowns. Adrian Martinez, I thought, ran the ball pretty well too. I mean, the 34 sacks takes away a lot of these rushing yards. I wish they would at least have like an extra one that doesn't take away from what you lost in sacks. because like it's got to be another 200 yards at least that he locks in sacks. He take that many, but 299 total yards in net, 5 rushing touchdowns. Jaquez Yant didn't get a whole lot of play, 185 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, 5.2 yards per carry. And that might not change next year because we have recruited another running back that is probably going to battle with Ramir Johnson for the starting job. I don't think I'm going to redshirt him, so Yant is not going to get many opportunities next year. He might still have chances as like that short yardage back though. Receiving, we were led by our best offensive player, Austin Allen, 55 receptions, 611 yards. Surprisingly, he only got 1 touchdown considering he's 6'9", and you think with his skill set, he'd be like the best thing he would be able to do is be a red zone threat. But we didn't get in the red zone much. And when we did, we didn't throw many red zone passing touchdowns. So there weren't a whole lot of opportunities for Austin Allen, but he was our ever reliable receiver. When we needed to move the sticks, when we needed somebody to get open, it was usually Austin Allen. Samori Toure being our #1 receiver, 45 receptions, 510 yards, 6 touchdowns, led us in receiving touchdowns, had the long reception of the season with 48 yards. Ramir Johnson was 3rd in terms of receptions, but only 197 yards. We tried to get him involved in screens, but I don't know if a single screen worked for us all year, even though they were heavily blitzing, like outside of the second drive every single game. They still never worked, and I don't really know why. Oliver Martin, I thought he had a solid season for us. The senior slot receiver, 282 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had some big touchdowns for us. Omar Manning, kind of disappointed. I thought he'd be a little bit better than he was. He just never really got separation. 292 yards, 1 touchdown. In terms of drops, I mean, us down, not a single drop. Not surprised there. 3 for Toure, not bad. 3 for Ramir Johnson, not bad. 5 for Oliver Martin and 4 for Omar Manning. Certainly only got 27 and 25 receptions. That's probably a lot higher than it really should be. Outside of that, nobody really else caught the ball. That's because they rarely saw the field. We never really ran 5 wide. I think we had one formation that had 4 wide receivers, and that was Lure, and he didn't really get many receptions. But Austin Allen was on the field basically for every single play, as was Samori Toure. And if we went 3 receivers, it's Martin and Manning out there. And we had a lot of 2 tight end sets too with Vokalek out there, but he didn't really get many targets or many receptions. Only 57 yards on the season. He is also a senior, so he will also be graduating. In terms of our offensive line and blocking in general, our tight end Austin Allen led us in pancakes. Like, he might legitimately be the best blocker on the team as a tight end. He's really freaking good. It sucks that he's going to be graduating. Sichterman, #2 with 2 pancakes. Other than that, nobody with a pancake, but a lot of sacks given up. But it's tough to know whether to blame the offensive lineman or the fact that Adrian Martinez ran into about 25 probably of his 34 sacks, especially for Corcoran, because like every time he ran into a sack, it was usually the guy Corcoran was successfully blocking on the play, and literally Corcoran couldn't have done anything about it. Like, Adrian Martinez ran directly into the sack. Like, I don't blame a lot of those on Corcoran. Sichterman though, probably a few more were towards him. He's probably our worst offensive lineman in terms of overall and actual performance. Jurgens with 6. Projaska only giving up 4 sacks. Pretty good for the true freshman left tackle. Defensively, Jojo Damond led us in tackles with 73. He is our best player and our best defensive player for sure. Deontay Williams not far behind though, 70 tackles. Reimer, our starting middle linebacker, with 62. Caleb Tanner with 61. Markel DeSmook, 56. Garrett Nelson, only 44 for a guy supposed to be a run-stopping linebacker. A little disappointing. But what gets me is the fact we had barely any assisted tackles. Like, they're almost all solos. And when you look at the NCAA tackle leaders, they have like 20 times the assisted tackles that any of our players do. I don't know why that is. It's kind of weird. But tackles for loss, I think we did all right. Ben Still at 24 is pretty dang good. Ty Robinson gets 17 in addition to his 14 sacks. Actually, I think sacks are counted for tackles for loss, aren't they? So he had 3 tackles for loss and 14 sacks, while Ben Still had 13 tackles for losses and 11 sacks. Ben Still is a pretty good for us. I think he's actually didn't get a lot of credit for how good he actually was. Garrett Nelson gets 13 tackles for losses. That's kind of what I expected from that kind of player. Caleb Tanner with 12, a little bit higher than I expect. More of a coverage guy. Jojo Damond with 10. Pretty good for strong safety, even though he did play close to the line quite a bit. Interceptions, Cam Taylor-Britt led us with 6. Deontay Williams with 3. Markel DeSmook with 2. Damond, Tanner, Newsom all had 1 as well. We could have had so many more too, because we dropped so many interceptions, and at least 2 that would have been pick 6s. What else we got? Deflections, 5 for Deontay Williams. I think he was really good this year as well as a deep coverage guy. Markel DeSmook with 3. He played some cornerback. He played all over the field for us. He had a really versatile skill set, and I was glad to have him, but unfortunately him, Williams, and Domon are all graduating. I expect at least one of them, if not 2, to get drafted. I doubt all 3 will, but Domon and Williams I think have a shot at getting drafted. DeSmook, not totally sure. Newsom with 3 deflections, Reimer with 2. Cam Taylor-Britt only 1 deflection, but he had 6 interceptions, so I'd prefer him picking them off than just knocking them down. In terms of forced fumbles, only 5 forced fumbles. That seems really low. Tyrik Johnson, Ben Still, Reimer, Robinson, and backup middle linebacker Nick Henrik with the forced fumbles. And we only recovered 2. Ty Robinson with 1, Deontay Williams with 1. I think we had 1 touchdown. We didn't have any blocks, any safeties. 1 touchdown, I believe. Yes, and it was Cam Taylor-Britt. Kicking, already talked about him, but Connor Culp, 18 of 18, 100% from the field goals and 100% from the extra points, even though for some reason it says 99, even though he's legitimately 30 of 30. I don't get that. Long of 53. And in terms of where his field goals came from, only 3 were below 29 yards. And 7 were from 30 to 39. 4 were from 40 to 49. And he had another 4 from 50 plus. So he was 8 of 8 from 40 yards and longer. That's pretty good. In terms of kick returns, Yakezient was our guy. Somehow, Ethan Piper, our backup left guard, got a kick return. I don't remember that, and I wish I did, because he got 10 yards on it somehow. I don't know how that happened. But Yakezient returning 31 for 875 yards. He had the 1 touchdown, a 94-yarder. Other than that, I thought he did solid. You know, I don't think he fumbled once on a kick return, which is pretty important to me. I don't like fumbles on kick returns in real life or in the game. But I thought he was a solid kick returner for us. At punt returner, we had Brody Belt. I thought he also did a decent job, 10.7 average, 291 yards, no touchdowns. Along with 27 is not bad. Punt returns are hard to get. It's hard to get punt return touchdowns, and it's hard to get a lot of yards on punt returns, in this game especially. Now to finish this up, before this video gets too insanely long, I'm going to go over our roster, show you where our holes are going to be next year, who is going to be graduating. So starting at quarterback, Adrian Martinez is going to be leaving. So the only quarterbacks we'll have are Logan Smothers and Harburg. Harburg's being redshirted this year. Neither of them should play for us next year. We've already got a quarterback recruit that I think is going to start as a true freshman. Rodney Johnson, only a sophomore, so he'll be back along with the rest of our running backs. Gabe Irvin was redshirted this year. There's a chance he's a cut candidate, but he might still stick around. But we are also bringing in a freshman running back that is probably going to compete with Amir Johnson for the starting job. Wide receiver, we're losing our top 3, obviously. Toure, Manning, and Martin all gone. Betts was redshirted this year as a sophomore, but I just don't really love his receiving numbers. 67 catching, 70 route running. Obviously, it's going to get better, but I don't know if he'll be good enough to be a starter for us next year. Lure, even though he's slow, he'll get a little bit faster. He's got some good size, and he's actually got decent receiving ability. So he might actually be our #1 next year. Then Levi Falk is graduating. So behind him, we've got him, Betts, and then Belt coming back, who is just not a good receiver. Nixon, some guys that are redshirted that are okay. Low 70s for these guys. This Alante Brown's not very good. Hardy, not very good either. He's at least got some speed to him, though. But I think we'll be bringing in quite a few freshman receivers. A few of them which probably will be playing for us. At tight end, we are losing our top 2 guys. Austin Allen and Vokalek, both seniors. Hickman is coming back, though. So he's going to be here as a junior. Around an 80 overall, a little bit higher. He might still not start, though. We've got another true freshman tight end coming in that I think is a more well-rounded player. Like, even with improvement, Hickman's not going to get close to 80 speed. His receiving numbers aren't going to be amazing, mid-80s maybe. And they're not going to be much better than the freshman we got coming in. So I think I might just start the true freshman. Badone and Carney were redshirted this year. They'll also be here. One of them might be moved to fullback, though. In terms of offensive line, tackle position is still going to be really good for us. Projatsko is a true freshman. He's going to be here for the next 3 further years as that starting left tackle. Miller behind him is only a sophomore, so we're good there. Corcoran, redshirt freshman, 79. He's going to be our long-term right tackle as well. Benhart, also only a sophomore, so he'll be here as well. So our tackle position is set, but our interior is where there's some issues. Our interior offensive line wasn't even good this year. Newly will be staying around. He's probably going to start for us next year as a guard, but behind him we've got Piper, who's a 72, who's probably not going to play, at least be a starter. Latovsky, who's redshirted, is going to be just a depth option. Sichterman is a senior. He's graduating, as is his backup Bando. So our only other guards are Banks, who's a 71, and Lynn, who's a 70. I think we'll be starting another true freshman, probably at left or right guard. We're going to have a returning senior center, though. Jurgens will be a senior. 82 overall currently. He'll be one of the highest rated players on our offense. We do have to have a backup center next year because Hickson is graduating. In terms of defense, I think we're going to be moving to a 4-3. I mean, seeing how many sacks we got, maybe I want to reconsider, but it's just so tough to get pass rushing outside linebackers. Like, they just don't exist in recruiting. So I think we're going to move to a 4-3 so I can have just natural pass rushing defensive ends. Ty Robinson's probably going to be one of the best players returning for our defense. 79 currently led us in sacks. He's probably going to play left end next year as a big left end. Behind him, Casey Rogers is returning, but he has just no pass rush ability. So he's just going to be a depth. I might even move him to defensive tackle if we get enough defensive ends. But we're going to need quite a few defensive ends because Ben Still and DeAndre Thomas are both graduating. So we're going to be left with one pass rusher, really, and that's Ty Robinson, who's over 300 pounds. In terms of the rest of our defensive interior, we're losing our top two guys. Damian Daniels and Riley are both graduating. So we've got Buckley and Hoopmacher, Hoopmacher's going to be a sophomore. Buckley, redshirt freshman. I think Buckley might be our number 2 next year, and I think a true freshman is going to be our number 1 defensive tackle. Not great at that position. Outside linebacker is also going to be interesting because Caleb Tanner is graduating. He's 77. Payne is a senior, but he's being redshirted this year, so he'll be here as a redshirt senior. But I'm not sure he'll start. I think he'll just be depth along with Jamari Butler. In the middle, we will have Honas, who is redshirted because he's a transfer, so he's going to be a senior next year. He's definitely going to be one of the best players on our defense. Reimer is also going to be back for his senior year. I think he might actually move him to left outside linebacker to replace Caleb Tanner, because I think he'll be our second best linebacker. Heinrich is also going to be back as a depth middle linebacker. Kolarevich is a senior, and Snodgrass also going to be returning. On the right-hand side, Garrett Nelson, as long as he doesn't declare for the NFL draft, which, based on his stats from this season, I'd be surprised. I think we'll have him, and he'll probably be our highest-rated defensive player. Damian Jackson is graduating, so Gunnison will still be here as a backup outside linebacker. Our secondary is going to be much changed, though. Cam Taylor-Britt, our only good cornerback, is going to be graduating. Quentin Newsome, I'm not sure exactly where he's going to play. Could be at number 2 at the best. Maybe our slot guy. Maybe our number 4. There's going to be quite a few true freshmen starting at cornerback, depending on exactly who all we get. Braston Clark's going to be a senior. I don't think he'll do much. I don't really love his coverage ratings, 73 and 74. Tyrik Johnson's going to be a senior. He might be a cut candidate because he'll be a pretty low overall senior. And we've got a couple freshmen behind him. Lynham's going to be a junior, just a depth piece I didn't really love. But as a 5th cornerback this year, I didn't want someone that actually had some talent there, so I redshirted Buford. And Malik Williams, who I think could actually be pretty good. He's got some decent coverage ratings. I think he might be maybe number 4 next year. I think that he's going to be an important player for us at the cornerback position. In terms of the safeties, we're losing all of our best safeties as well. Deontay Williams is a senior. Pula Gates is the only returning free safety. But we've got some recruits there that might start. Strong safety, we're losing both Doman and Dismook. But we do have a pretty high-rated backup. Miles Farmer's going to be a sophomore. He'll be in the 80s. So he's probably going to start for us at strong safety. And we got Gifford to back him up. Connor Culp is leaving. But we do have Brendan Frank, who's being redshirted this year. But he has 66 accuracy, and I've recruited a better kicker, so he probably is going to get cut. And then punter, we've got Prizdip for his senior year. Now a quick look at our new commits after our last recruiting special. So we've got quite a few in the past couple of weeks. Rodney Jennings, I talked about her having a new tight end next year. That's going to be the tight end. He's probably going to start. Look at his ratings, like 84 speed. It's going to be the fastest tight end. 86 catching, 85 spec catch, 81 route running. I just think he's going to be more well-rounded. He's not a great blocker, but he's going to be good for us, I think. James Hill is committed as a wide receiver. Not exactly sure. He might get redshirted because his 71 catching. I would like that to be a little bit higher. And we've got a couple other receiver recruits. Jake Pierce is the running back I was talking about. He's got really good break tackle compared to Ramir Johnson. But we saw his yards after the contact numbers. But I think Jake Pierce might get an opportunity. He would at least make our backup running back better. But it's hard to not redshirt a guy that's going to be like one of your best players, but he might be too good to redshirt. Leon Young is the kicker we're getting in. 81 accuracy in comparison, so he's going to be our starting kicker next year. Brian Donaldson is probably going to be our number 2 wide receiver. 84 speed, not the fastest, but he's a good receiver. 74 catching is solid, but 88 spec catch, 83 catch in traffic, 84 route running, and he's got some break tackle ability, which we don't have at all at the wide receiver position. 73 break tackle, 80 elusiveness, 73 trucking. Can also play quarterback, but he's going to be a receiver for us. Mark Graham is a tackle that I think we're going to move to guard. He's probably going to be redshirted year 1, but could start year 2. Travis Williams, cornerback, also probably going to get redshirted, but he's got some decent numbers. 84 man, 81 zone. More of a slot guy with his 64 press and high agility. Caleb Nolan's just going to be a depth defensive end for us. Probably not going to be redshirted just because we're going to need the depth. Tim Hart's probably going to be our starting defensive tackle, our #1 guy next year. Just really balanced. He's got all the mental and block shedding, power moves, all that. He's got all of it, so he's probably going to be our best defensive tackle. Gilmore is going to be our starting right end, I think. I wanted a better starting true freshman right end, but I couldn't get him. So Antonio Gilmore is the guy we got. He's probably going to have to start because we don't really have anyone else. Chris Brown, another guy that might get redshirted because I think he's better than Caleb Nolan. So I'd rather redshirt him instead of just have him on the team as a backup and not get any game time. And then the rest I think we already knew about. Tony Roberts, I think, going to start for us at left guard. Gary Thompson, I think, going to be a #1 cornerback. Alex McMahon could start for us at free safety. Jeff Holland's going to be our starting quarterback. And Ryan Brown, probably going to be redshirted as defensive tackle. So that's going to be the end of this episode as we wrap up year 1 of rebuilding Nebraska. All in all, I think it was a pretty solid season. To go 7-6, and especially to win a bowl game, I think a good way to end the season. Next year, I'm not really sure what to expect. We could be better with better quarterback play, but we also could be worse considering we're losing a lot of high-rated, important seniors, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So not really sure what to expect. I just know there's going to be a lot of starting true freshmen for better or for worse. So I'll see you next episode as we go through the offseason and prepare for year 2 of rebuilding Nebraska. If you made it this far, why don't you like the video, subscribe, and click the bell. The links to all my socials and my Twitch are in the description. I really appreciate all your support. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you next time.